Hi there. I got a reply of somebody about my venture capital video, the last one. And could you outline an idea very specifically and then hope for the best? That's the suggestion. That's not the way it works. But and usually people go to the phrase, it's a chicken and egg problem, somebody has to start doing something. But I really think it's very obvious that there's opportunities in renewables and technology like that. And that there's experts in the field of renewable technologies. I mean, I know two very effective desalination technologies that are not being used on a wide scale, that are basically unpatentable, and that could hugely reduce cost of desalination, because they both use renewable energy to do it. And it's not a solar still. Of course, everybody knows the solar still. That type of desalination is not very efficient, because you are trying to evaporate water, which is a lot of energy, requires a lot of energy on that, let's say, to make that phase change, and you don't have to do that. But well, these two desalination technologies that basically could enable agricultural land in Mexico and in Spain are not being used. But if you use them, then suddenly, you have, like, your acre of land suddenly becomes much more valuable, because you can irrigate it. Very clearly an enabling technology that's not being used, because there's fossil fuel based and nuclear based technologies that are more that have a fossil fuel and nuclear cartel behind them that are pushing that. And we are in a carbon credit system, so the banking system only extends loans to projects that use sufficient amounts of fossil fuels, because that's what they're handing out. Otherwise you wouldn't need a bank. If it's about manual labor that creates a return, let's say working on a piece of land, farming, and you want to get people to farm your land or to work your land, you can always sell them futures for the produce and let them work for that. And then after the first crop is in, they can use that to buy the crop. Because that's what it's the type of money that you're creating, your future contract, if it's about that. And then you have rallied the people to work your land. It's very easy. You can get bums to plant peach trees and whatever fruit-bearing trees all around the county, as long as you give them, I guess, permission to use the fruit in the future. And then people without food and without money can use their ability to work in order to create future food, and maybe they can sell the fruit. It's amazing what you can produce on a little piece of land. I've posted a video about it a long time ago. There's a very small house with a very small piece of land somewhere in Los Angeles that produces like 214 different varieties of produce, including animals. Why does it work? Well, first of all, plants don't need that much energy, and second of all, you're in California, there's sunshine. It could be a fucking jungle if you wanted to. As long as the solar energy is there and you have the irrigation, then it's just a matter of accumulating the right minerals in your land and managing it appropriately, and everything is as green as can be. Because jungles create their own microclimate with a lot of water maintained in the let's say between the trees and the ground and the shrub and all that stuff. So if you cut down a jungle, then it can turn into a desert. And there's many other technologies that are simply unknown, not invested in, suppressed, kept away from the public eye. I read about this technology that turns heat into electricity directly, one step, or no step actually. And I wrote about it a long time ago. And if you want to know what it is, then you can always ask me. It's a kind of a solar battery, where it's basically you heat it up, and then it has to be very hot, so it uses concentrated solar power. But if you use concentrated solar power, then you can reach temperatures up to 3000 degrees. So you have a lot of room. It heats up something to about 500 degrees and then it starts producing electricity directly. So it's basically like a solar cell, but a little bit different. Very interesting principle. And it's developed by NASA in order to have some power for their satellites and whatever probes and Voyager type vehicles, because these have a real problem. They move so far away from the sun that there's no way to gain enough energy from that. So they usually have radioactive isotopes that fall apart and then generate heat, and that heat can be turned into electricity. And sometimes it's simply, if you have a radioactive compound that radiates electrons, then if you catch those, you have a current of electrons, a very small one. But and then I saw, let's say, so this is very interesting technology, and it can be scaled up. It's been thought out. It's actually cost effective. So it's actually at the same cost level of solar panels right now, or below that. So you basically don't have to worry about whether it's profitable to build it or construct devices with it. And of course the maintenance is really low, because it's a little bit like a solar cell in the sense that you put it on your roof and you never have to think about it again. That's how these things are designed, and that's possible with solar panels. It's not, for instance, with windmills, it's much more difficult. So that's why they're so expensive. Like super durability is a blockade by the industry, because they know how durable internal combustion engines and diesel engines are, and everybody knows that a car engine doesn't last 30 years. So why the fuck does a windmill have to last 30 years, or a solar panel? What's that all about? It's just BS. But anyway, I saw a discussion about it, because it's also it's just a type of heat engine, heat to electricity converter. But it was misunderstood by the industry, and that's very easy. So you basically enter the scene with your new invention. You say, this is a solar cell that uses bananas, and it's different because it has no moving parts. Well, solar cells don't have. But anyway, you have a little story about your new invention, and it's really revolutionary and different. And but people say, oh, it's a solar cell. Well, we already have solar cells. It's like you say, well, I've got a new type of engine. It's the molecular quantum engine. Oh, but we already have engines. We have the steam engine, and we have that's like when the first guy, Ford, came with his internal combustion engine car. He said, well, this is revolutionary, internal combustion engine. And somebody said, well, we already have steam engines. Why are you talking about engines? That's what the steam engine cartel would say. It's always like, oh, I'm not really sure if I understand what you mean, or I'm not really sure what this is about. I get that. I was responding to a request by a Liberal Action Committee for Renewable Energies to become a member, and I read their charter, and it's simply not awake. It's simply not alert to the actual situation as it is. And you might call me alarmist, but okay, I've been saying it for a couple of years. Listen to Paul Gilding, the former CEO of Greenpeace. He explains it to you. We're gonna lose control of the transition to renewable energy pretty soon, and we're gonna lose control over society if we don't act. And so then you can have your platform and your gradual change, but it's not gonna work, because nobody's gonna give a damn. Everybody's gonna be running around trying to survive. That's the way it's going to be if you don't respond. So if you have a platform, you have to advocate something that is quite shocking, which is rationing of energy, fixed, let's say, centrally controlled allocation of resources in order to get as much renewable power on stream, online as soon as possible, and taking preparations for the calamity that is basically the fossil fuel availability collapse calamity, which is massive. And I'm not like what's this guy that's on my I forgot his name, but this is this guy like who wrote this book collapsenet.org, and you have other people like that, because what they're doing is they're making money out of a doom scenario, and of course they are alerting, but you can overestimate the value of alerting people. This is the same thing as like you have the whole Kony situation and people saying, well, we're making people aware of the injustice against the child soldiers in Africa. That's for all very nice, and you can go on like that. And to make an analogy very simple, I always say there's two types of people. There's one, there's one that will be pointing at a turd in the street like a dog did this thing. There's a turd, there's a turd, there's a turd, dirty. Complain about it, tell everybody. And there's another person that simply will clean it up. And then you're rid of it. And that's and the first person you really don't need, because everybody can see it. It's quite obvious. That's just a person that thinks, oh, I'm gonna be useful by telling other people what to do, because I think that other people have no clue what they should be doing. I think it's pretty obvious that people have a clue what they should be doing, and that there's too much people thinking that pointing towards a problem is part of the solution. It is not. It is solving the problem that is part of the solution. I really get pissed of these people, because, and that's another thing, there's an implied arrogance in it, implied master-slave relationship in somebody that points out a problem and then doesn't provide a solution, or doesn't fix it himself if he can. That's basically laying waste to your own physical abilities, wasting time of your life. You know, you were gonna die someday, and what did you do with your time? Well, 90% of the time I was sitting about, wondering and being very frustrated about everything. Well, that's very useful, thank you. That's like, I guess a lot of people were made very happy by you being frustrated or shocked or pacified by some way. You have to move that away and start doing something. Anyway, but venture capitalists are still welcome. I can tell them what this technology is that I'm talking about. I actually have a report that calculates that this heat engine electricity converter can be made, I believe, for about $200 per kilowatt or something like that. So it's competitive with, better than competitive with solar panels. And these days, you know, you have so much producers of solar mirrors already. That technology is quite mature. There's been solar power plants in the US since 1984 that are still running, you know, so you're just a fool if you think that renewable energy cannot work. It has been working, and these people, you know, these people say, well, you know, yes, it's Kramer Junction, it's no longer called Kramer Junction, but where's Kramer Junction 1, 2, 3 until I believe 9, and they're still building new plants. Because why? Because other people are selling air conditioners and they have peak requirements, and so you need power for that. And lo and behold, you know, when the sun shines, you can generate electricity in order to run those air conditioners. So the electricity company is making a shitload of money off your back, because in California, because they have these power plants, they need little or no maintenance. Have you ever wondered, you know, everybody knows you have antique glassware. It lasts for hundreds of years. And these mirrors, you know, all that stuff is just, you make it once and then you have to maintain it. That's a marginal cost. That's not a replacement cost. It doesn't kind of, it's not like one day to another your whole solar power plant is vaporized. That only happens to money. It is vaporized. Actually, there's people around me that are talking like that. I really want to punch them in the face. Like, oh yes, our pensions have vaporized. Anyway, this is a little bit of a random video. I hope people come to their senses. I'll put a link to that Paul Gilding video below this one, because it's really a good watch. And I've been saying that for quite some time. And not because I'm brilliant, but simply, I guess, because I have a similar type of sense of reality, and I have a similar type of sense of what people are ready to accept, are ready to listen to, what they're ready to understand, basically. And it's quite a sad, small opening that you have, even though we're all rallying for renewables and green energy right now. There's really a lot of people involved in it, but it has to become, the whole movement has to become harder, because it is a very dangerous problem. But thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this video.